All right. Morning, afternoon, or whatever, everyone. Welcome to this special one night live stream. Again, it's probably not going to be the most exciting. It's going to be covering one area, Savage Interlocking, in Savage, Maryland. These photos were actually taken. I took them there with a friend's camera because I didn't have mine at the time. So it's sort of a one-day special. I'm doing this because, unfortunately, I will not be able to do a multi-night live stream on April 2nd through 4th. So if I had said that in a previous stream, I will not be able to do that. I will try to do another one-nighter next week, next Friday to Saturday. I'm going to be in town for the opening of Patco's Franklin Square station. I'm not going to be there on opening day because we're opening at noon on what do you call those days? A Thursday. But I will be there on the Saturday. 1 second. Let me just close some windows here. All right. I unfortunately forgot to open one thing here. There we go. Just want to pull up the old Metropolitan Sub. No, Capital Sub. So these are photos from 2008. This is a 2005 timetable, so it's functionally pretty much the same. Capital Sub goes from what used to be Halethorpe Interlocking, now St. Denis at the end of the Baltimore Terminal subdivision, goes all the way down to QN Tower in D.C., or F Tower, where the Metropolitan starts. That's basically where the main line makes a giant west-hand turn to head out to Chicago. Or you can take the Alexandria extension at JD, the old JD Tower, and head down to the RF&P. This is, if you see all these interlockings here over the years, when MARC has expanded service, they get shaken down by CSX to put in more crossovers. Savage was, one of those was Dorsey that they put in, and Amondale. The other ones are original to some point in time. Savage is dating from the B&O, from the rule when it went to Rule 261 on both tracks. So this is located 19 miles from Camden Station in Baltimore. Or one of them. There might be a mileage break, so maybe it's a little less than 19 miles. And about the similar distance to DC, so it's about halfway along. Where are we looking right here? Okay, that's the old stuff. It's just south of Maryland. There's the old main line. There's Thomas Viaduct. And it's located just south of Route 32, where your Jessup Auto Terminal is. That's there. And then here's the Savage Station. There's a ton of transit-oriented development going on around here. There's a really cool brewery called Notch 8 Brewing. If you want to go to a rail fan themed, well, it's not really rail themed. It's less rail themed than you think there'd be. Where is that? It's next to Junction Deli. Wait, is it next to Junction Deli? Yeah, it's in here somewhere. I think it's part of Junction Deli. There's your Savage MARC station. Oh, maybe it's up here. There's Notch 8 Brewing. Yeah, it's by the parking garage. So there's the new parking garage they built for the new Savage MARC station. Or sorry, there's the parking garage. There's an additional parking garage. And if you keep going down past the water treatment plant, there's Savage Interlocking. It's easily accessible behind this corporate park. It's one of those flat, low-rise places with a lot of different stalls. So you can just roll in and park there, and no one's going to bat an eye because, no one knows their neighbors in these sorts of places. There used to be a connection to the Savage Industrial Track the remnants of which can vaguely be seen going into these long, former factories, which are now just cross docks. It's also located near this awesome place called Jailbreak. It's a brewery, another brewery. A little pricey, but they have really good chicken sandwiches. I'm talking about all this now because the only photos I have are just of the interlocking. So we're going to be talking a lot about B&O CPL, sort of the signal-y stuff today. So anyway, this is where it is. It's right off, it's right between the BW Parkway, I-95, right off of Route 1. If that makes sense to y'all. Let me make sure I got all the stuff available here. Okay. So, like I said, the capital sub went through when MARC had a big expansion in the early 90s. They came in and paid for a lot of improvements, including a couple complete interlockings. However, it had already been what do you want to call it? Bidirectional with a bunch of crossovers since some point. From what I can get by the smell of stuff that got thrown away, probably the 1970s, maybe the 1960s. I need to find a timetable. But it was definitely built before the 1980s when they put in Greenbelt. Oh, sorry, that was also the 90s, early 90s, like 1990. So here we are looking down. We have B&O CPL bracket massity at each end. This one was, when I say this is probably one of the older interlockings, you could tell because this uses the pole line for interlocking communication. Instead of having one hut with buried cables, or today they have like maybe even wireless between the two, or buried cables. This one has an old bundle pole line going from the central logic center down to the remote cabinet. So this is, of all the things, this is definitely an older one. It's right down from PA Tower, which probably is where a tower used, yes, it is where a tower used to be. But before there was CTC, that was definitely going to be more important. Let me just check one little thing here. I did come back here later on in my career when they were replacing the signals. So I'm just want to check what I was using for some of this stuff here. Okay. Some of the interlockings some of the namespace I would hear, I'd put capital sub after it, and sometimes I wouldn't. I really should. I don't know why I didn't, but it looks like if I put capital sub after it, it's going to be fine. So it's a pretty straightforward double crossover. Today, just south of the Jessup Auto Terminal, they put in quite a few new interlockings to support Jessup Terminal operations. When auto rack trains used to show up, they would hang out in the middle of they would tie up one of the main tracks. So CSX has now added new interlockings there. So there's a third. They put a third track that goes. They extended Jessup. We'll get into this later. They extended Jessup on a new third track. They added a new interlocking here, and then they redid the interlockings at both ends of the Jessup Auto Terminal, PA Tower, and another one, Fort Meade Junction, PA Tower, and then Jessup at the other end, and that allows the auto racks to sort of come in and get unloaded on their own time. Ooh. My mouse is getting sort of hung up on something here. There it goes. So here we are looking towards the other end of the interlocking. There's the alternate, that's what they would call location B. You can see the big, thick pole line. And one, I think, additional strand of that might go down to the bracket mast over there. And you can see also what's left of the old code line. For, you know, it's the poles have been left up for the purposes of interlocking communications, but not for CTC or dispatcher type signaling. So, if you're wondering why what the point of this picture is of just the switchblade, most of the turnouts on the Capital Sub do not have point heating. At least they don't have electric or automatic point heating. They have to go with smudge pots, and you can see that even though this is summer, the smudge pots are all still in place. They hold about 2 gallons of kerosene, have a big old wick on them, and in case of emergency, in case of a snowstorm, the maintenance crews come out and light them on fire. Most of the switches on the Capital Sub, unless that they've been redone, or even after the resignaling, I think that most of them stayed without point heating. MARC runs a special schedule. Despite this being a fairly, arguably an important main line, there still seems to be a lot of slack time in it. So it could just be that with the MARC running its special snow schedules, that they just didn't feel like spending an extra couple of bucks on point heating was really worth it. The term for smudge pot is also used in agriculture, especially in Florida, where there might be you can use these, basically the same things, heavy oil burning, wick-based things that create sort of a fog and can raise the ambient temperature by just enough degrees to get something over the threshold of freezing. It was often done in citrus groves, mainly in Florida and occasionally in California. So if you ever look them up, that's what they tend to be applied to. I've done the same thing in my garden, actually, involving under the same conditions, and when there's a similar type of frost, I'll often put up some tenting or something over the affected plants, ones that you can't generally move. Oof. So as you can see, these signals here were not approach lit. So in the rush hour, there would often be fleeted for whatever MARC trains come by. MARC is a peak direction service, but it does run in both directions to serve both DC and Washington. And the CSX dispatchers will run freight during the B&O CPL period. The line is fairly fast. Line speed is 70 miles an hour, and there are almost no speed restrictions on the line. Once you get out of the Baltimore terminal area past the Thomas Viaduct, there's one 60 mile an hour. There's like a couple of 60 mile an hour curves, and that's really it through DC. The line does curve, but they're gentle enough for it to not matter. See here we have one of those few curves, and it's only a 5 mile an hour speed restriction. It doesn't even have a separate freight speed. So if you have a freight train like an intermodal that can, in theory, do passenger speeds, it would not be restricted. Although there's not a lot that goes, it's not class 5 track, so there's not much that's going over 65 here. These are the famous MARC GP 40 WH-2s. They were built as a combination of GP40s with the cabs of F-45 cowl units from like the Northern Pacific. They're made by MK up in Boise, which would eventually become MPI Motive Power, which would then sort of use its corporate parent of Wabtec to take over GE Transportation. The interesting thing is that these were then rebuilt again into MP 32-3 MP 32 PH-3Cs or dash dash 3Qs for Sunrail. They were given an MPI cab, but they still kept the whole the stuff behind them. Pretty wild life. I think that MARC had about 20 of these, but only like 12 got rebuilt. I think CSX bought 2 for their office car trains. And we have cab car 7753. MARC had 2 sets of these single level. I think these were Nippon or their Toku car. Most of the original series, or maybe Bombardier made them. Most of the original series were taken out of service, but a few are still used for bike cars. This camera was a little bit cheaper than mine at the time. So the quality isn't quite the same. But the sharpness is way up. So here we have the eastbound bracket. Both of these have the the 10 o'clock orbitals for approach medium and the 8 o'clock orbitals for medium approach medium. You would think that this would be back to back with another crossover. However, at this time, PA Tower and Fort Meade junctions served industrial spurs only and did not have a crossover between them. That's why it's 2 different interlockings. One of them was in service on track 1, the other one was in service on track 2. However, it was considered to be a short signal distance between those 2 signals, only about 1 mile. So you would get an approach medium for a stop at Jessup. So diverging to a stop at Jessup, which would be right up there. There's Jessup interlocking. If there's a stop there, you're going to be getting approach medium to an approach to a stop, or medium approach medium diverge to an approach to a stop. Here we have the same, just showing the side profile. These definitely had a lot of supporting catwalks and infrastructure along with them. Here we have the eastbound relay cabinet with the old pole line. And you can see that there's really nothing on. I'll zoom in, but you can really see there's nothing on the telegraph lines are all gone, and the pole line power is gone. Everything's been stripped off of this. The insulators aren't even worth taking. They're rubber and plastic. So the only thing this has been here for was for interlocking communications. Sorry, just finishing this up. There we go. So here we are looking down track number 2 at the various switch points where they meet in the middle. I believe these are medium speed number 15 turnouts, and they have 5H point machines. So nothing special really at all for the switches. I can't recall if I've ever seen a diverging movement here. I'd like to think that I had, but I don't know. It's entirely possible. I wish I'd seen if these had numbers on them or not. Let me check that other trip I took to them. Not seeing any numbers. You can see how you can get the maintainer's access from the nearby industrial park. This is I've come here and I've been here a couple times waiting for people to show up at one of the breweries, and sometimes they'll actually see, you know, and that's why it's a pretty good place to kill some time. In about the space of an hour, in less than an hour, you can see 3 MARC trains and a regular freight go by if you get here in the afternoon. So these are 5H switch machines. The cap sub does have a lot of 5Fs. The H has the extra space right there for motor control equipment that normally would be in the alternate take would be located in the one of the huts or something. And then here we just have another angle on this. You can see the smudge pot right there, right there. So if I zoomed in on that for you, forget one of those places where you fill it, and one of them is where you set it on fire. And again, this is in July, so that's been sitting there for a while. I'm only doing 40 today, so I forgot I did 12 there. I should have only done 10. The last set will be a little shorter. Let's see if anybody has any questions. Oh, shit. I was actually in Boston on the day of the opening, but I didn't realize what was going on, and I had a 2 o'clock train that I had no ability to really get down to do any of this stuff. I haven't even gotten to Greenbush yet, and I tried to do that as far back as 2008. A lot of those lines are just sort of hard to ride. They're neat. They're neat to get down there, but I'll see what I can do. Yeah, the cab cars have K5 LAs. Maximum speed over the medium speed in this area would be 30 miles an hour. Where did you say there was copper? So the wires between the interlockings have been are gone. I mean, like today it would be a data line. Back then, you know, they were definitely going out. There's something up with the telegraph wire alloy that doesn't make it 100%. People don't tend to like it. I don't know. There's something up with telegraph wire. I saw Miles' video, but I had no way to get down there at 3 a.m. I was actually doing a lot of fun signal stuff the day before. So here we have the Savage interlocking hut. These are pretty standard for whenever these went in on the B&O. I'm betting these came from the 1970s, but I am not. I'm fairly bad at judging the age of interlocking huts. They're often older than I think they are, but this feels like something from the 1970s or maybe the early 80s. And you can see the pole line, and they still have some wires left on it. And these have they have the King rubber insulation. That's one of the reasons they. I know there's copper content in them. I've gotten some, but there's something up with that telegraph wire that it's an alloy to. It's like a high strength that somewhat dilutes the percentage of copper that's in it. I don't know what the alloy is. And here we have the westbound bracket. This does not have the 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock orbitals. It just does full or a diverging route over the, for medium speed. If these were number 20 turnouts, that would be limited speed, good for 45 miles an hour. I think some of the turnouts on this line were limited speed, like when the state paid for them in the 90s. The one approaching Camden Yards, that had a flashing green over flashing 6 o'clock. I also love how this bracket mast is tilting. Bracket masts definitely like to develop a lean. Not only did I label these improperly, I thought this was a north-south railroad. It is not. It is east-west. Oops. Sometimes the question is, what do you do with when you don't see the base? So this, in theory, is leaning, but I can straighten it up. Make it look, even though this is leaning, there's no reason not to give it a little straighten here. Easier on the eyes. Now, the interesting thing, like I said about the other ones, they supported approach medium and medium approach medium, but for short block lengths. However, at Jessup and Dorsey interlockings, those are back-to-back, about 2 miles to the east, and those do have those did have the medium approach mediums for back-to-back diverging moves, as opposed to short signal blocks. Now, something that is indicative of these being newer is the hardware on the CPL. That terminal block is from is the last generation. Well, not second to last generation, used in the 70s and 80s. So this probably was CTC'd in the 1970s or maybe the early 1980s. But they used older bracket mast designs. I'm not sure if they were salvaged from maybe parts of the main line that were going down to 2 tracks from 4. They could have also been bought new at the time. And we have a wet spot. CSX, at least in this area, whoever the divisional, whatever people are, there were just wet spots all over the place, especially near my apartment. You've seen them in previous previous live streams in the St. Charles Cut. That's currently being rebuilt now for the Baltimore the double stack project. So maybe they'll get some better drainage in there. But even on a fill, they're going to get a wet spot. Leave it to CSX to get a wet spot. Let me verify that's track 1. It is. So this is the end of the former Savage Industrial track. I was actually in this area on a geocache, although we were kind of in the wrong place. But it was odd. It was like the wrong place, but led us to an interesting area. There's another industrial track there. There's a lot of old industry in this area. So you can see the old Savage Industrial track. A bridge is no longer there. Maybe that's what got washed out. So today the third track ends there. But this would have been outside of interlocking limits. Today it is inside interlocking limits, but back in the day it would have been outside. So, oops, let me zoom out here. That is the hand throw switch or point machine is gone, but the electric lock unit is still there. So remember, when you see a thing like one of those point machines that they look like a little mini electric switch machine, but they're not, and you think, oh, that whole thing has the electric lock in it. This is the electric lock. This is the only thing that's an electric lock. This small little bit. You can have the rest of that hand throw and not have it. It can be present and not be electric lock. They have a pipe derail connection. And there's CSX does put on, even on CTC trackage, non-electrically locked siding switches. There's one there was a dump track near me on the old main line in Ilchester that doesn't have an E-lock on it. So here we have another view of the E-lock. We can see the old terminal block for it. I have seen a video on YouTube of how to work these. There's a thing that's not entirely clear about them, and I'll point it out right here. So the switch throw handle fits under that. That's a little lamp viewer that will be red if it's locked and green if it's unlocked. Normally this is a padlock there and a padlock, it's a CNS padlock and there's a padlock here. I believe that you depress that you first, when you take off the padlock, like the switchman's lock, that will activate, that will energize this whole thing in here because it doesn't want to be drawing power normally. See, it says depress to apply padlock. I think that depressing it turns this off. Then that also starts the timer. And when that turns green, you then step on this pedal. A solenoid is released the lock. This will go all the way down and release the hand throw switch. It seems a little bit complicated, but it's one of those things of how do you start the timer. And here we see it open. I'm going to cut off that part over there because that's not necessary. So again, there's a little solenoid. The thing that actually unlocks it is a little solenoid that blocks this from traveling and letting it open. Again, this is a separate thing that I believe is when you said depressed to apply, when that's depressed, it opens a circuit inside that either stops the timer or something, or de-energizes it or something. I'd really known what this was, I would have poked around at it better. But I did not. I was not prepared to really poke at it. And here, again, because we are in the middle of the rush period, the signals are fleeted in both directions for MARC or whatever other traffic happens to be running around. And for whatever reason, I didn't really stay around at the other end that much. Not entirely sure why, but whatever. All right, that's that 10. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I think I'm missing one here. Oh. Wait, what? Oh. Oops. Huh. Oh. Okay. I got these out of... that ended up out of order for some reason. Just want to make sure I got them all there. Any more questions? MARC, the switches, the interlockings that MARC paid for tend to get the point heaters. But I think that they just MARC only paid for that. Like, there are literally an interlocking where, like, the one MARC switch has electric heaters, and only that switch, and everything else is a smudge pot. So I guess MARC, like, the state drove a harder bargain back in the 90s. Today, CSX can practically get, whatever it wants these days. More they didn't even increase service on the Brunswick line, and they got like 2 extra interlockings, crossovers. There's almost no automatics on that part of the line. It's just crossover, crossover, crossover. They put one near Rockville. They put like another 2 out before like Gaithersburg. I mean, it's just nuts how many crossovers that part of the line has. They did not put any new ones on the Capital Sub, though. All right. Don't know how I got that last photo out of order, but here we are. Just another clear signal indication for track number 2. $12 o'clock orbital lit, central target indicating clear. There's the basket for your maintainer to get up to hit that one, and there's a ladder to get all the way to the top. Just a zoom in shot of this guy. I forget what the zoom on this camera was. It was not the equal of my other one. Looks like the little restricting lamp there is missing its little sun shield. And here we have a slightly better angle of this. I'm not being picky. I'm going to save them both. I might have thrown away one of those back in the day. All these lenses are plastic. It's interesting how the Fresnelling on some of them are much different. Like those versus this one. And then here we have the track 2 signal, not displaying clear, just displaying stop. As to be expected. Yeah, I'm having to straighten all of these, even though the bracket was crooked. It just looks better if I straighten it. A little bit of a cheat, but not a big deal. And here we have the base of the bracket and the interlocking looking westbound. Huh, it's not. So for a second I thought that was crooked, but then I realized, like, no, it's not crooked. And there's the wet spot, of course. That it wasn't crooked. It's the mast that's crooked. that upper bracket. Looks like I went around to get a different angle on it, but I'm going to keep them both just because, you know, these photos are slightly more valuable than they used to be. Try not to blow out the sky on these. Oh, you know what I can do? I don't need to do all this. I can just call it a silhouette shot. See, I already have the other one, and this one's not cleaning up as well. But I got to do the whole thing of how I figure out how to spell silhouette. See how this one cleans up. I'll keep this because it's a different angle. Wait. Okay, this is track 1 clear, yeah. Let's get in the track, which is track number 1. Got the signals reversed a second there. Okie doke, that got it right. And walking all the way back to the end. Now, it looks like these did, looks like these ones are approach lit at this end. I don't know why the other end is... I could have sworn that these weren't approach lit. Well, there you go. That explains why I didn't have more photos of this one, I guess. At least displaying stuff. The sun would definitely... The sun definitely... You do get some good sun in this area, especially in the summer. The setting... you get a little bit of a henge effect here. Although one direction is going to be catastrophically backlit. Where is that? Oh, there it is. That's strange. I wonder if I edited that. Is this lit? And can I just not see it? Or did I actually edit the... Oh, it is lit. And you can just not see it. Because it's so bright. Huh. So here's my question. Do I fake it? Nah, I don't want to fake it, but... Yeah, these are lit. I used to have a way I dealt with this. I'm not gonna fix it. I used to do that a bunch, but I'll keep it like it was. There's no good way to really bring those out. Man, you can't tell that signal's lit at all. This one you can kind of see. There you go. You can see that one now. All right, we're almost down. We're almost done here. Just 8 left. Is there any more questions? Let's see. Oh, hey, more. I'm glad I looked up silhouette because I'm definitely gonna need it for that one. All right, let's see what we got here. Track 2 clear. I'll adjust it in just a second. By adjust, I mean adjust the angle on it. Slightly tilted. There it goes. What the? Oh, no wonder. Wait. God damn it. Oh, shoot. God damn it. God. There it goes. Sorry, just getting this dealt with here. That worked. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, this is it's a nice install, but man, yeah, you can barely see that. Because that's why the the engineer got paid the big bucks. Literally his job to see it. There you go. Just now, yeah. With this camera that I had, this did not have the zoom facility, so that's why I really wasn't able to get in and get detail shots. But I said I did return in 2012 when this was starting to be on its way out due to the re-signaling project. So I wasn't lost, but it still wouldn't have been up to my standards today. Oops. And we got our silhouette shots from the back. These are kind of pretty. These are cool though. Today I'll usually get these silhouette ones, and I'll adjust the camera a bit to be able to blow this out, to get the rest of it. Although it's this is what when they say high dynamic range, a cell phone would be able to get all of this. The sky and the detail on the back of the CPLs. Let me go grab that silhouette thing. Where'd that go? There you go. And then each of the two signals, track 2, track 1, and then I think a couple pictures of switch machines. Okay, there we go. That looks good. Be the track 2 signal, silhouette. And track 1. And this looks like it's part of the facing point turnout. What is this? Oh, this is the trailing X over. And the last photo, just looking at the trailing point crossover towards the pole line terminal. There it goes. Dump some of that blue. Perfect. Good enough. All right. That's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Throw up your questions in the chat if you have any. All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to get out now. Sorry about next week, but hopefully, that longer week, but hopefully I'll be able to do another single night next time. I'll figure out something. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the nice weather if you've got it. And hopefully you'll have a great April. All right. See you next time.